Hi, so for your Sinus assignment, number 2, question 2.1 says you have to install Windows 10. So for this particular question, you need to install 2 instances of Windows 10 on your Hyper-V manager. So the first one will be named GRC PC 01 and the second one will be GRC PC 02. Both of these instances of Windows need to have a default switch and a student's internal switch. So you have a first adapter, a second adapter. The first adapter is going to connect to the internet by default. The second adapter will be a private or internal adapter to communicate, to enable communication between both PCs. So I'm going to show you how to install an instance of Windows 10 on your Hyper-V. So I have my Hyper-V manager already opened and I have one instance of Windows 10 already. So this has already been installed. So I'm going to show you how to install from your own end. So there are 2 ways to install your Hyper-V. You can either use Quick Create. If you're using your personal computer, you click Quick Create. Note, this is if you're using your personal computer and you have administrative power on that computer. This is the interface you'd use. You'd use Quick Create. You select your local source, that is where your Power ISO software for installation will be. You select local installation source. You select change installation source. So you have to take your you have to navigate to where you have your Power ISO software. So note from the previous instruction that I uploaded online, you need to place the Power ISO software in your drive C. So I'll navigate. What you do is click on your this PC, your C drive, you go to users, click on users, click on public, click on public downloads. So I created a folder, an outer folder to place my software. You might not do the same for yours. And this is where my Windows 10 software is. So I'm going to click here and click open. So this is where you select your Windows 10 Windows 10 OS. Okay, I think I selected the wrong one. This is what you need, the client enterprise. It's the enterprise, so you need to check the name very well to be sure. It says client enterprise. So you click OK and you click more options. Remember, this is for those who are using their computers to install. I'm going to show you the way to install for the lab also, just a second. So you click more options here. If you're using your computer, you change the name of the virtual machine to GRC-PC02 or 01, depending on what you're doing, and you ensure that this is showing default switch. So that goes on. Then you click create virtual machine. So this process takes you through the way for you to create the virtual machine. So I'm going to cancel this. However, for those of you who are installing the Windows 10 on a computer on the a computer in the CR4 lab, what you need to do, since you don't have administrative power, you have to click on new. This is inside your Hyper-V manager. Click on new. If you're working from the lab and you want to install Windows 10, click new, click virtual machine. Then you specify the name and location. So I'm going to use this installation process throughout this video because most of you are using the computers from the lab. So I'm going to create the second instance since I have one already created before. Do not touch any configuration here. Click next. So we're going to use generation 2 instead of generation 1. So some people would use generation 1, but you can use generation 2. Let's use generation 2 for uniformity's sake. It can work also for generation 1. Just know how to install it. So we're using generation 2. You click next. Now you need to give it assign 2 gigabytes for your RAM to process things. So you type in 2048 in this space, 2048, then click next. So here is where you choose your default switch. You have to ensure that you have a default switch. So you select from the drop down default switch and you click next. So you notice also this point, do not touch anything in here. This is just showing you where the hard disks for PC2 is going to be at. This is the size of the PC2. So I can decide to keep mine as 100 gigabytes. You can leave it as 127 gigabytes, but ensure that you have enough gig space to do all the things that you want to do for this assignment. So I'm going to leave mine at 100 gigabytes. Then click next. Then here you're going to click install an operating system from a bootable image. We need to point this to where you have your Power ISO for the installation disk. So you click in this space which says browse. And remember what I said earlier, my installation CD or your installation CD has to be in a folder where you have administrative power, especially for the lab whereby you don't have default access to the drive C. You can put the installation CD for your Windows 10 in your ISO image folder where you have it for the other module. At least you have administrative power for that. So I'm going to click on this PC and scroll down the C drive, users, public downloads, and I'll go into this folder and click my Windows 10 installation CD and click open. So it's pointing at it right now, and I'll click next. You can see the general information and click finish. So it's going to create the virtual machine for us. You can see here you have virtual machine CRG PC2. Okay, so now you can go into the settings while it's selected. You note we have our default adapter. So before you start the installation, ensure that you add the student adapter. So if it's your first time creating this Windows 10 instance, you might need to come into this space. You might need to cancel here if you haven't created any student adapter. You have to manually come inside the Hyper-V manager, select your virtual switch manager, and in this space you'd create a new virtual switch. You click internal, create virtual switch, and name it student internal switch, and ensure that it's either internal or a private network. Remember, we want to use the switch to communicate between both PC instances. So don't touch anything in here. Click apply and OK. So I'm not going to click apply and OK because I already have an instance of a created student internal switch. So I'm going to cancel this. But if you're just creating it for the first time, that's the process. Then, in order to ensure that PC2 has an instance of the student virtual switch existing within it, you click on the PC2 once, you click settings, yes, then you can notice from this place that you have the default switch, just one, but you need two. So while the hardware is highlighted, click network adapter, click add, select a virtual switch from this drop down, choose the student internal switch, and don't touch any other thing in here, just click apply and OK. So it's going to close the interface, but when you click here, if you click back, that is, while this PC2 is still selected, if you click back on settings here, which is the settings for PC2, you notice that our student internal switch for PC2 is appearing right under the default for PC1. So this is the way you add another adapter into PC2. So we have this as a default switch and this for communication. So for this assignment, you're told to take a screenshot of this particular aspect to show. Some people will take the screenshot showing the name of their PC, maybe it has their name or surname or student number attached to it. So let's look at the instruction. You notice from here there's a screenshot that you need to take. So we have achieved the question 2.1, which requires you to have a default adapter and an internally configured switch. So this has been achieved. So in the next video, we'll look at how to create two-way mirror storage and a parity storage. Okay, so click OK here and we'll go back to our Hyper-V. So this is how you first create your second instance or your first instance of Windows. Then we will start up with the configuration of the installation in itself, which is what we'll do. So take notes.